After 16 years, two Marine Corps widows saw their husbands vindicated today. The Pentagon now says the two pilots were unfairly blamed for the fatal crash of a revolutionary aircraft. A review of the investigation finds no fault with the plane, but it says that the pilots were not adequately trained and weren't warned about potentially dangerous flight maneuvers. David Martin reports from the Pentagon.
If ever there was a bittersweet moment, this is it. After 16 years of heartbreak and anger, two Marine widows and their families met with the Deputy Secretary of Defense to hear their late husbands cleared of blame for a deadly crash. Brooke Gruber was 8 months old when it happened and has grown up with the shadow hanging over her father.
What would your friends ask you?
Did your father cause the crash since he was the pilot? And I would have to say, of course not.
In April of 2000, the V-22 Marine tilt-rotor Osprey crashed during a night landing in Arizona. The horrific fireball was recorded by a camera on a second V-22.
Crash! 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 Crash!
The two pilots, Lieutenant Colonel John Brow and Major Brooks Gruber, were killed instantly, along with 17 other Marines.
They're dead, aren't they?
Yes.
Announcing the findings of the accident investigation, this Marine Corps press release stated the fatal factor was Brow and Gruber's decision to complete that night's mission by attempting a landing that required them to descend too rapidly. For Connie Gruber, that made the loss of her husband all the more painful.
It felt like he had died once in the Arizona desert, and it felt like he died again in the press.
That statement, the fatal factor.
Right.
Why do you think the Marines added that?
Many people have had the opinion that it was to basically protect the aircraft over the pilots.
Blame the pilot, not the aircraft.
Right.
At the time, the V-22, with its revolutionary tilt-rotor technology, was a controversial aircraft and in danger of being canceled.
I felt betrayed for my husband.
Because it had been put on him.
Yes.
With the help of North Carolina Congressman Walter Jones, she set out to reverse the verdict. Finally, Deputy Defense Secretary Bob Work, himself a former Marine, reviewed the evidence and issued this letter.
I disagree with the characterization that the pilot's drive to accomplish the mission was the fatal factor that contributed to the accident.
I knew right then that that's exactly what we needed to have said publicly.
Work concluded, I hope this letter will provide the widows some solace after years in which the blame for the accident was incorrectly interpreted to be primarily attributed to their husbands.
What'd you do with the letter?
We went out to the cemetery, my daughter and I, and we placed it on the grave there.
We rubbed our hand across his name and we said, this is your legacy. Now it's honorable and you can finally rest in peace the way that you should have 16 years ago.
Mission finally accomplished. David Martin, CBS News, The Pentagon.